that they don't have the best interests at heart of the common folk?
Yeah, no, it's a hyper-specific, evidence-based conclusion that the global economic system is deliberately structured in a way that funnels the wealth, power, and resources into the hands of a small group of people who then use that wealth and those resources to further centralize their power at the expense of death, war, starvation, disease, bigotry, and general human misery. So non-generalized, right? Specifically, people are angry that our system is structured in a way that promotes the interest of predators who profit from suffering. Look, I'll be clear. I don't care if billionaires have my best interest at heart. They're people. I'm a person. We don't know each other. They don't owe me any kind of special consideration. The point is, I shouldn't have to care. Human civilization should not be structured in a way where the vast majority of people have to rely on the mercy of blatant sociopaths to avoid suffering. That's a really bad model. People like this seem to forget that the rules of human civilization are made by the humans, and the point of human civilization is to create a healthy and safe environment for human beings to thrive and prosper within. So, when human civilization is obviously causing more suffering than is necessary, we're supposed to change the rules. We can change the rules, right? You're not a hater or bitter or jealous for wanting to fix a self-evidently broken system. Actually, you're kind of a traitor for not wanting to. After all, you're not the rich that we're talking about. You've got a few $1 million in the bank. Good for you. Nobody cares. We're talking about the kind of wealth and power that can corrupt and alter the system that governs people's lives and threatens people's well-being. Look, right now the Swiss mega corporation Nestle is going a bit viral because Americans have found out that they are lobbying the American government, so essentially bribing American politicians to prevent American mothers from receiving access to maternity leave. Because one of the many things that Nestle sells is baby formula, which means preventing American mothers from having the freedom to properly care for their infant children is profitable for the Nestle Corporation. Think about that for a sec. With all the fuss American politicians make about election fraud and voter fraud and foreign interests affecting their politics, this is a foreign financial interest paying American politicians to change the laws in a way that's harmful to American citizens and profitable for the foreign financial interest. This is what people mean when they say the rich, right? Not you. Calm down.
Is it just some sort of generalized skepticism, generalized scrutiny over rich people that they don't have the best interests at heart of the common folk?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so why would we assume that the billionaires do have our best interests at heart? The billionaires, they're individuals. I mean, maybe some of them do, absolutely some of them don't. They're individuals. They're not a monolith, right? So to automatically assume that a billionaire has your best interest in heart is silly, and given that they've gotten to the point where they have billions of dollars, that will let you know something about their interests, right? I mean, you can't blame people for wanting to protect their own interests. They want to make money, so they find ways to make money, and that's fine. But assuming that them making money is going to align with your best interests is a crazy thing. It's more likely that it would go against your best interest. I mean, like there's 10 cookies and there's 2 people, and in a perfect world, one person would get 5 cookies and the other one would get the other 5, right? But if one person has interest in, maybe they feel like they're hungrier, maybe they weigh a little bit more or whatever, or it's been a while since they ate, or they have a sugar addiction or whatever, and they feel like they want to have the eight of the cookies and leave 2 for the other person. I mean, I mean, their interests are their interests, and that's fine. Each person can have their interests, but if their interests are going to affect my results, then we are at odds with each other. Okay, and that is more likely to be the case in these situations than the the billionaire, the person who has 8 cookies, and then he's like, I see you only have 2 cookies over there. I'm gonna give you 3 of mine, and so then we can both have 5 cookies. Does that sound good to you? Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. Good looking out, man. Like, is that a realistic scenario? Maybe there are some billionaires out there who would do that. But just the fact that they're billionaires would tell you that it's highly unlikely, because if they were with that mindset, then they wouldn't have become billionaires in the first place. Let's read some comments. It says, bureaucratic structures is inherent to government, institutions, and corporations because bureaucracy is central to avoid accountability for atrocity. So yeah, all the red tape, that makes me think about immigration. And if you really want to improve the situation related to immigration, then you improve and streamline the process of immigration. Okay. And this is a part of the conversation that is never talked about. Like, all of the problems related to going through the process of, becoming a citizen. We're not talking about that. We talk about the illegal immigrants, the ones who crossed over the border and they superseded the process. Okay, well, let's talk about the process. And then why is it so convoluted and full of red tape? Is there a reason why it's that way? When you deal with the government and you deal with the DMV or whatever department of the government, for you to get your driver's license or your passport or any kind of official documents that you have to get, and then you have all of these problems and red tape and time that it takes. And like in Harris County and Houston, we only have a couple of those locations where you can do certain things. And it's the population here is like, I don't know how many people here. It's like 1 million people here. If you ask me, it's a lot of people here. And why do they only have a couple of locations? So whenever you go there, then you're going to have to wait in long ass lines. And you get my drift. What I'm saying is, what this comment is saying, the bureaucracy is a way to avoid accountability. It's a way to hold up the line. It's the middleman. It's like the insurance companies where you have to go through the insurance company to get your care from your doctor. Like, why is there that extra step there? Where did that come from? Another comment, it says, I'll never understand non-billionaires taking it personal. That part is really weird to me too. Like how people are like, oh, they have to make money. They have to make profits. I mean, you want to take money out of my pocket. You want to force them to have to pay their employees a fair wage and all of this. Like, why are you defending them, bro? Like, I can understand them defending them. Why are you defending them, bro? Like, you're not in the same tax bracket with them. Like, they don't care about you. They don't know who you are. They're going to screw over your wages too. Why are you freaking trying to defend them? Like, come on, man. Recognize who's on what side, bro. Another comment says, this is due to the banking system. Free market is a good thing when it's not corrupted by government. Well, I mean, in theory, free market would be good, but we don't have a free market. And I don't know when we ever had one. If you let things fall the way they should, then we shouldn't have a Chase Bank. It should have went out of business in 2008. Right? If it's a free market, if they screwed up, They lost all their money. They placed bets on speculations that was wrong. They took on all this really bad debt and it fell through the bottom. Then they should go out of business, right? That's a free market. And then the banks that actually did a good job, who kept good investments on their books, who took care of their customers, who didn't make wild speculative investments, experimental as like high risk, movements, then those banks should be the big banks now or whatever. They should be the ones who's running the show, the ones who did the right thing. But that's not what we have. And that, the banking sector is not the only one that you can look at in that way. They step in all the time. It's not a free market. It's not a free market. Another comment says, if only those podcasts, bro, would read a history book. Another one, not to mention one of the CEOs of Nestle believes water should be a human right. Yeah, Nestle comes and they take the water from the local communities and then they sell it back to them in the bottles. And then they bought it at like pennies, for like pennies a gallon or less than that. It's a racket. Who owns the water anyways, right? Like, when we could talk about the wildfires, I'm meaning to get into that. I was kind of avoiding that topic. I don't even know if I have any posts in here about it because I'm kind of late and the whole thing is kind of, I'm going to say it's blown over, but everybody has already, talked about it. It's been ridiculed to death. But who should own the water, Like, who should own the oxygen? Like, that's not a thing that someone should own. Like, a corporation shouldn't be able to own the water, bro. Like, who owns the mountain? Who owns the snow? A lot of this stuff always comes back to property rights. And I know that that's the argument. That's the fundamental argument of capitalism versus like Marxism, socialism, communism versus, free market capitalism. It comes down to property rights, and people have their opinions or which side they fall on related to property rights, but that is the fundamental argument for a lot of stuff. And we should be having that argument instead of putting all this other stuff in the way of it and pretending that we're talking about something else when really we're talking about property rights. The billionaires, they understand this argument related to property rights, and they're going to defend that to no end, and you can't blame them for that. That's in their best interest to do that. People that don't have a lot of property, I don't understand their arguments for it. I mean, again, it's kind of the same thing that we were saying earlier, but another comment, it says, these wannabes forgot $5 million is a lot closer to 100K than 1 billion. So they defend billionaires instead of the working class. Yeah, man. Most of us are closer to these homeless people. And that's I was thinking about the fires and all of the actors, the wealthy people, and I feel bad for these people who have lost everything. But I wonder if they can sympathize with the homeless people in LA and in California, that they deal with that every day of their life of like, not having anything, and the little that they have, that being taken away and thrown in the trash, stolen, looted. I just think that we should have some compassion for each other. If you're so individualistic that You want somebody to sympathize with your pain for losing your $1 million home or whatever. But at the same time, you don't see these homeless people out here who don't have anything, you know, they're struggling, you know. I didn't see any videos about sympathy for the homeless people during these fires. I'm sure that the homeless people were impacted also, you know, and you can't compare as far as saying, oh, well, they had millions of dollars that they lost, and the other person had like a tent and they lost their tent. And you're like, well, they lost $1 million. They only lost a tent. Well, it was everything they had, right? The other person lost everything they had, and this person lost everything they had. So, another comment says, Holy S. I knew Nestle was evil, but that is cartoonishly evil. Yeah, talking about, you know, forcing the women back to work so that they can't breastfeed their kids, so that they'll have to pay for formula, so that it, affects their bottom line in a positive way. That's pretty damn hardcore intense right there. Somebody was sitting around in a board meeting and was talking about that stuff and made that decision. Another comment, it says, I wonder why we think this. Could it be we maybe got some justification? Like, for example, the entire human history after we started to create settlements and hierarchies and trade with money. What is the point? What are they trying to say here? I don't really understand what they're trying to say there. Dang, and I lost my train of thought. I was just about to say something related to the fires. Everybody losing everything. It's really sad. Building the settlements in those areas. So, like, historically, there's certain areas of California that historically, have wildfires. And if there was nobody there, they would still have these fires. So trying to point fingers on, like, who sparked the fire or whatever, I mean, it was inevitable to happen. I saw a story about, they were talking about Siberia, and a wildfire erupted there and burned, like, I don't know how many, acres of land, like huge area, and nobody was there, so it doesn't make a story. Nobody really lost any property or whatever. But it made me think about, some of these areas in California, that probably shouldn't be neighborhoods there. If you build your $1 million house in an area that's prone to wildfires, and then you're surprised when your house burns down, and then you built your house made of combustible materials when it didn't have to be built out of these combustible materials. I mean, how many things can you do wrong? We don't, you know, humans, we think that we're so superior, that we're so great. Like, we can defy nature. Like, that's not how things work. And we get a reminder of that from time to time, and then we forget again. But, some of those neighborhoods, they really just shouldn't exist. They shouldn't have houses out there, period. It's going to continue to be a problem. It's always been fires there. Trying to talk about mismanagement of funds and talk about the DEI and talking about who started the fires. All of that is kind of beside the point. It really is. You know, build the houses somewhere else, man. The weather is beautiful, so I get it. You want to live in an area that has beautiful weather all year round. It's wonderful, like 68 degrees all year. And so, but something comes along with that. And what is it? Is it you get earthquakes and you get wildfires. I mean, you have to pay the piper, bro. Another comment, it says, I just don't understand how one can have so much. I still want more. If I had a couple $1,000,000 in the bank, I'd be giving money away left and right, and probably more than I should. It just doesn't make sense to me. After reaching a certain amount of money, there's no value in it anymore. Yeah, once you reach a certain level, I mean, how does your life, what is the difference between your life between $1 billion and $2 billion? What's the difference in your life between $1 billion and $10 billion? You know, what's the real difference? And how much is enough? How much is enough for you to live a good life? You know, once it gets to the point where you have more money than you could possibly spend in your lifetime, your grandkids couldn't spend all of this money. You know, so what are you doing? What is the point? Like, what is going on? But meanwhile, as a result of your activities, you're like destroying the planet. You're making countless people suffer so that you can have more money than you could ever that your grandkids could ever spend. I don't get it. It's really kind of crazy. It's really kind of crazy. It's like hoarding money. It's really kind of insane. Like, it's utterly pointless. But our society, we put these people on a pedestal because they hoard money. They're so much better than you. He's so much successful than you, you know? He flies private jets every day. Like, he has like 4 houses and a ranch and a farm.